everyone, welcome back to CJ's Keto Kitchen. Tonight we're going to be making another comfort classic. And tonight's dish is going to be pigs in a blanket or keto bagel dogs, wherever you're from regionally. The name varies. But everyone knows it's a wonderful, easy, comfort dinner. Or you could also make this an hors d'oeuvre if you wanted to make it with cocktail sausages. But I will talk about that during the video. So please come along with us and let's make some dinner. So we are starting with our semi-traditional fathead pizza recipe. We're going to be adding an additional ingredient that gives it just a slightly different texture, more of a bready stretch to the dough, but I'll show you that in a minute. But to begin, we have a cup and a half of mozzarella cheese. It's about 5 ounces. And to that, I'm going to add 2 ounces of softened cream cheese. And we use the Philadelphia brand because it has less than 1 total carb per serving. And a lot of your grocery store brands have almost 2 carbs. It's amazing the difference. So it's definitely worth buying the name brand in this case. So I already pre-softened the cream cheese a little bit, but of course we're going to put this fathead dough into the microwave and let the cheese melt so that we can stir everything together. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to start microwaving for about 1.5 minutes. So you can see that our cheese has started to melt. And that's what we want. Starting to form kind of a dough, and that's when we start adding our dry ingredients. So I have 1.25 cups of almond flour. I'm going to start stirring that in while the dough is soft. And this can be a little bit of work. If you have a food processor, you can absolutely do this dough in there. But I find just using my spoon, it will all eventually incorporate. And if it gets too difficult to work with, you can put it back into the oven, the microwave oven, and heat it up a little bit more, which I sometimes will do. Now, the unusual ingredient that we're going to be using in this, and you absolutely do not have to have this, is I am putting 2 tablespoons of whey isolate protein powder in here. And that just helps give it a doughy stretch. And that was 2 tablespoons. And like I said, that's purely optional. I'm going to pop this back in the microwave for a second and let it soften just a tiny bit more before we add our egg. Now I'm going to add some seasonings to our dough because I don't want this to be completely flavorless. So I'm going to add a little bit of 21 seasoning salute, and of course you don't have to do this step if you don't want to. I'm also going to add some salt because I really think that that's helpful, and I just have a salt grinder here. Just give our dough some flavor. I'm just going to stir that around, and now I'm going to add my egg at this point to finish making our fathead dough. I'm just kind of trying to get everything incorporated. It is obviously a dough, so like I said, you know, if you wanted to do this in your food processor, you totally could. Some people find that easier, but I don't mind stirring it by hand. And it's definitely coming together to form a traditional dough. And I'm just going to use my hands and make sure that I get this egg worked in there really, really well. And you can smell the spices in this. It smells really good. Make sure we get our egg worked in really, really well. Okay. Now I'm just going to let this sit for a second and cool down just a little bit so that it will roll out easier for our pigs in a blanket bagel dogs, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I sprayed my counter with some of my coconut oil spray, and I'm just kind of rolling this dough out. We want to get 8 servings, so because we're going to be using 8 hot dogs. So I'm just kind of rolling it out like that so I can cut it into chunks. And then we'll know that the dough that goes around our hot dogs is fairly even. It doesn't have to be perfect, because these are a nice, this is a nice comfort, homey food, so you don't need any kind of precision. So I take my dough and I'm just gonna work it and kind of flatten it out so that we can put it around our hot dog. Now I have bought Oscar Mayer uncured jumbo wieners, and you can buy these at almost any store. I found them at Walmart, and they have less than 1 carb per hot dog, so it's a really good. And of course you could use little smokies. You could make this into little tiny chunks and wrap it around little smokies like cocktail sausages and take them to a party. If you were making hors d'oeuvres, you could totally use this. You could do it over any kind of sausage you wanted. If you wanted it to be over sausage, you could completely do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of flatten out my dough, and it's pretty pliant at this point. And I'm just gonna work that around my hot dog. And like I said, it doesn't have to be super fancy because this is a comfort food. And it looks kind of nice if you can leave the ends poking out, so then when it bakes, it looks really cute, like it's really a pig in a blanket. And then I'm going to put it on my cookie sheet. And I have foil lined this, and I've also sprayed it a little bit. It shouldn't stick because, of course, the dough is fairly fatty, but it's just a precaution. So there's one, and we're going to do the rest in a similar fashion. And just encase our dogs in the dough. And this is going to make 8, like I said, which is perfect because that's how many hot dogs are in a traditional package. So, and once again, we're just gonna kind of encase our hot dog in the dough. And I like to put them seam side down because we are going to do an egg wash and put a little bit of fanciness on the outside. And pigs in a blanket are a very traditional Western food, especially in the Western United States. But if you go onto Wikipedia and put in pigs in a blanket, almost every country has a version, even Japan. I was surprised. It might be tempura in Japan. But anyway, it's very traditional food. But surprisingly, CJ had never had the savory kind. He had only ever had the pancake wrapped around a sausage kind, a pig in a blanket. But I'm from southern Idaho, and we had it all the time. It's especially delightful for kids, and they like to help. So traditionally it's done with like crescent rolls or biscuits in a can, but this would be a lot healthier for your kids if you wanted to make this with your kids. Okay, we're getting ready for our last one. And then we're going to do our little fancy bit. We're going to cover these with egg wash, and I will show you what I'm talking about. Now I have just mixed up egg and just a little bit of water with a fork and just kind of whipped it up. And then I just use a chip brush. You can just buy these in the paint department. They're usually less than $1 each for them. I mean, you can of course buy a pastry brush if you want, but these work just as well, and it's basically what it is. So I'm just going to put that on top of our hot dogs. And that's gonna kind of make them get really nice and golden in the oven. And it's also going to help stick what we're going to put on next. So next, for a little bit of fancy pizzazz, we are going to add some everything but the bagel seasoning. So you can just get this at Trader Joe's. If you don't have a Trader Joe's, you can use regular sesame seeds. That would be fun too. Or I've used Parmesan cheese. You can sprinkle whatever you want on there. Some coarse ground salt would be pretty. That would make it almost look like a pretzel. But that will also, this is going to give your dough a little extra flavor too. So that will be nice and savory when we get it out. And this is, of course, to taste. You don't have to put anything on here at all if you don't want to. Okay, so there's our pig in a blanket keto bagel dogs. And we're going to put them into a 400-degree oven. And they're going to cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. Just keep an eye on them. Every oven temperature varies, of course. So we're going to put these in and set the timer. And we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, they are ready, and you can see that they're very beautifully golden. And they smell really good, especially with that seasoning on top. Okay, we're gonna let them cool, and they'll be ready to eat. You're supposed to say something. That you're eating these delicious pig in a blanket.
I'm eating the delicious. So Sarah just told me to say that I'm eating the delicious pig in the blankets. Actually, they are really good.
Even though you'd never had the savory kind, you'd only had sausage and a pancake.
I've never knew that there was a savory kind. So these are really good. This is our second batch. We made some last night, kind of a test batch, and I had those for lunch. Those are good as well.
So they reheated well?
And they reheat it well. And I think these are better because it's got the...
I really think it adds a lot of flavor.
Whatever the seasoning
Everything
was.
but the bagel.
Everything but the bagel seasoning. And we'll put a link to that as well. But anyway, they're really good.
Nice comfort food.
Sure. Nice comfort food.
Sausage inside dough is always a good way to go.
No, they're really good.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope that you enjoyed making another fun, classic comfort food. We hope that you will subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when we upload new recipes. And we also do keto conversation, usually on Wednesdays. And so we would really like you to come back and be a part of our ketogenic family, make more fun ketogenic foods. So please come back, and we'll see you next time on CJ's Keto Kitchen.